Good morning, I'm Sarah Sapsanamma. Let's begin with the top stories of the hour. Resident doctors prepare to intensify their protests, claiming their demands have not been met. Private medical colleges demand increase in seat quotas. Nepal Electricity Authority begins process for a short-term loan of 10 billion rupees after failing to collect more than 42 billion in outstanding amount. It's election day in Australia. 18 million voters to determine who the next Prime Minister will be. The cost of living and housing concerns main issue. And Jos Buttler scores his 5th half-century of the ongoing IPL season to help Gujarat beat Sunrisers by 38 runs. RCB face Chennai later this evening. Resident doctors are preparing to intensify their protests, claiming their demands have not been met despite holding multiple rounds of talks with the government. This comes after the government failed to implement its decision to provide them with subsistence allowances equivalent to the 8th level of government pay. Health services have been adversely affected, while private medical colleges have put forth conditions such as increasing seat quotas. Resident doctors say repeated discussions with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health and the Medical Education Commission have failed to yield results regarding their demand for increased allowances. On Friday, a dialogue was held at the Ministry of Health with the presence of the Minister and protesting doctors, but no agreement was reached.
हाम्रो चाहिँ दुवै मन्त्रालयको चाहिँ माननीय मन्त्रीज्यूहरूले चाहिँ तपाईहरुको माग जायज छ यो जसरी नै कार्यान्वयन हुन्छ भनेर चाहिँ आश्वासन त दिइराख्नु भएको छ तर पनि जुन निजी मेडिकल कलेजले 3 महिनासम्म पनि कार्यान्वयन गरेको अवस्था छैन अब हामीलाई चाहिँ यो सहमति हुनुको एउटा मात्र उपाय भनेको अब हामी प्रधानमन्त्रीसँग चाहिँ वार्तामा बस्न सकियो भने त्यहाँ मात्र समाधान निस्किन्छ.
The Medical Education Commission had decided to raise the subsistence allowance of residents last Falgun as per Nepali calendar. A recent meeting of the Commission chaired by the Prime Minister instructed medical colleges to implement this decision. But on Friday, Health Minister Pradeep Bodal warned that private medical colleges and hospitals that fail to implement the decision would face actions including denial of insurance payments, restriction on purchasing medical equipment and cancellation of affiliations. However, the ministry has not yet issued any written directive to colleges defying implementation.
मौखिक रूपमा हामीले निर्देशन दिने हो त्यो मानव पालना गर भनेर भन्ने हो त्यसको निश्चित समय अवधिसँग पर्खिने हो यदि कुनै पनि अस्पतालले माघ 25 गतेको निर्णय हामी कार्यान्वयन गर्न सक्दैनौं भनेर देख्यो भने यो मन्त्रालयबाट बिमा जुन उहाँहरुलाई भुक्तानी गरिन्छ त्यो पनि बन्द हुन्छ यदि उहाँहरुले त्यो भन्नुभयो भने यो सबै कुरा बन्द हुन्छ राज्यसँग नजोडिकन ती कलेजहरु चल्न सक्छन्.
Private medical college operators have responded that although they are willing to pay resident doctors allowances equivalent to the 8th level, they want the seat capacity for MBBS and BDS programs to be increased to 150 and also seek an increase in tuition fees.
फी पनि बढाउँदैन सीट पनि बढाउँदैन त्यो एउटा समस्या मात्र हो. मेडिकल कलेजहरुले आफ्नो समस्या नेपाल सरकारसम्म राख्न पाउँछन् त त्यो राखेकै हो उहाँहरुले आश्वासन दिएकै हो र यो कुनै ठूलो समस्या होइन. अहिले एग्रीमेन्ट भइसक्यो खाली पेमेन्टको लागि अब यताबाट जोगाड भइराछ र एडमिसन पीजी को एडमिसन हुने बित्तिकै पैसा आउँछ उहाँहरुले दिने सबैले वचन गरेकै छन् दिन्छु.
At present, 18 private medical colleges are operating programs that include MBBS, BDS and postgraduate studies. Despite working like full-time doctors, resident doctors allege they are being exploited by colleges. Students are angered by the college's push to increase seat quotas and fees based on these demands.
150 वटा सीट हामीलाई ल्याइदेऊ अनि बल्ल हामीलाई दिन्छौं भन्ने तरिकाले उहाँहरुले भनिरानु भएको छ र यो चाहिँ जने जने राज्यको पनि मिलोमतो देखिन्छ यसमा सीट बढाउने र त्यसमा चाहिँ जने जने 6 अर्ब चाहिँ सोझै नाफा हुन्छ. हामीलाई प्रधानमन्त्री प्रति पनि विश्वास लाग्न छोडिसकेको छ. उहाँहरु पनि त्यतैपटि चाहिँ लागेर उहाँहरुकै लबिङ चाहिँ गरिरहनु भएको छ.
College management and administrations meanwhile have reportedly issued threats to resident doctors involved in the protests, warning they will not be allowed to sit for exams or will be failed outright. It's the 32nd World Press Freedom Day today. The day is being observed in Nepal as well with various programs. On the occasion, the Federation of Nepali Journalists and other media-related organizations are organizing a variety of events. A morning rally was held in the capital this morning under the leadership of the Federation. Speaking at the program held after the rally, Federation President Nirmala Sharma expressed concern over the growing incidents of press freedom violations in Nepal. The day has been observed on May 3rd every year since 1993, following a declaration adopted at a journalist conference held in Windhoek, Namibia, organized by UNESCO. On the occasion of the day, President Ramchandra Paudel expressed confidence that the media sector would continue to work fearlessly in the full exercise and protection of the constitutional rights granted to it. Now, in our Public Voice segment, we've asked in several provinces which aspect of the government's policies and programs did they like the most. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
विद्यालय शिक्षा अन्तर्गत उद्यमशीलतालाई चाहिँ जोड दिने खालका चाहिँ पाठ्यक्रम चाहिँ को परिमार्जन गर्ने त्यसैगरी चाहिँ हरित कोरिडोरहरु चाहिँ निर्माण गर्ने र त्रुटिपूर्ण रहेका चाहिँ आयोजनाहरुको चाहिँ खारेजी गर्ने कुराहरु चाहिँ उत्कृष्ट लाग्यो।
पेट्रोलियम पदार्थबाट चल्ने गाडीहरुलाई युरो 6 मापदण्ड अन्तर्गत लागू गर्ने, त्यस्तै प्रधानमन्त्री तथा राष्ट्रपतिको नामबाट सञ्चालित आयोजनाहरुको नाम परिवर्तन गर्ने लगायतका राम्रो लाग्यो।
फेसलेस अनलाइन सरकारी सेवा प्रदान गर्ने, अनावश्यक सरकारी संरचनाहरुको खारेज गर्ने, युवा केन्द्रित स्टार्टअप कार्यक्रमहरु सञ्चालन गर्ने जस्ता विषयवस्तुहरु अहिलेको नीति तथा कार्यक्रमले समेटेकोमा राम्रो छ।
विश्वविद्यालयलाई अनुसन्धान केन्द्रको रूपमा विकास गर्ने गरी जुन खालको अहिले नीति तथा कार्यक्रम आएको छ यसले हामीलाई उत्साह थपेको छ।
निजी विद्यालय र सामुदायिक विद्यालयहरुको पाठ्यक्रमलाई एकरूपता कायम गर्ने भन्ने जुन नीति ल्याइरहेको छ, जुन कार्यक्रम ल्याइरहेको छ, यो धेरै महत्त्वपूर्ण छ।
कार्यान्वयन हुने हो भने केही आशा गरौँ। जति संवेदनशील ढंगले नीति तथा कार्यक्रमहरु आउला भन्ने जस्तो अपेक्षा थियो त्यस्तो चाहिँ देखिएको छैन।
युवाको आकर्षण बढाउने र देशभित्रै उद्यम इलम गर्नेतर्फ केन्द्रित गर्नेतर्फ यो बजेटको नीति तथा कार्यक्रमको भाषाको सार छ। विद्यार्थीहरूलाई दिँदै आएको दिवा खाजा रकममा वृद्धि गरिने भन्ने कुरा पनि सकारात्मक छ।
युवाहरू विदेशी पलायन हुने जुन प्रवृत्ति छ त्यो प्रवृत्तिका लागि अझै स्पष्टसँग नीति तथा कार्यक्रममा आएको मैले महसुस गर्न सकिनँ।
स्वास्थ्य बीमापट्टिको पाटो चाहिँ मन पर्यो।
वायुसेवा निगमको यो संरचनालाई पुनर्संरचना गर्ने कार्यक्रम चाहिँ मलाई राम्रो लाग्यो।
The Nepal Electricity Authority NEA is planning to take a short-term loan of 10 billion rupees after failing to collect more than 42 billion in outstanding payments. The authority issued a white paper yesterday stating that due to a lack of funds in its accounts, the process of acquiring a loan has been initiated. Managing Director of the authority, Hitendra Dev Shakya, released the white paper revealing that only 2 billion rupees remain in the authority's current account, prompting the decision to seek a 10 billion rupee short-term loan. He mentioned that the government has already been formally requested for the loan.
हामीसँग अहिले पैसा छैन। 10 अरब रुपैयाँ चाहिँ हामीले अल्पकालीन ऋण लिने प्रक्रिया अगाडि बढेको छ।
In the meantime, the NEA has not paid income tax in any year. According to existing tax laws, companies are required to pay 25% of their profits as income tax. As per the provisions of the Income Tax Act, including adjustments for 12 years of losses and claims of accelerated depreciation for tax purposes, the current net loss stands at 5.26 billion rupees. The white paper also reveals that the authority has long-term loans amounting to 248.12 billion rupees. Out of the amount, 77.08 billion is from the government's internal sources and 171.04 billion is from foreign development partners under the government's guarantee. The authority's total liabilities are estimated at around 385 billion rupees. Likewise, the authority's financial commitments and contingent liabilities up to the fiscal year 2080-81 amount to 69.57 billion rupees. Legal claims and cases pending in various quasi-judicial and judicial bodies could result in potential liabilities of 8.4 billion rupees by the end of Falgun 2081. It is time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. The question is, what's your take on NEA's decision to seek a loan of 10 billion rupees despite outstanding dues? Your options are: A, priority should be on collecting dues; B, avoid increasing the debt burden; and C, consequence of political interference. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for international update. Australians are voting in a national election that polls show will likely favour Labour Prime Minister Anthony Albanese over Conservative challenger Peter Dutton, with voter appetite for change dampened by worries over Donald Trump's volatile diplomacy. Polling booths with mandatory voting opened at 8 a.m. local time. A record 8 million out of the 18 million eligible voters had already cast ballots before Saturday. Both major parties have focused on cost of living pressures, but opinion polls show that global uncertainty driven by Trump's stop-start tariffs rapidly became a top issue for voters during the campaign.
Childcare, because that's a key issue. I find there needs to be more teachers.
I have always voted for the Labor Party because I don't believe in me. I believe in us as a nation and the development of the country as we are developing anyway.
The polls are polling not Timu Trump, so that's kind of good. So yeah, I'm slightly positive. Hopefully it's going to be a minority government and Greens get a balance of power.
I think most important to me is a kinder, more thoughtful and compassionate society. So I'm concerned about ensuring that a fair go, which is an old expression used in elections a lot, but I want people to have access to health, education and the social security they need, and an eye on climate, because I think all parties have not been paying sufficient attention to that.
When you're looking at someone who's amassed $30 million worth of property and they're telling you that they would like to bring property prices down, kind of feels like trusting a fox to build a chicken coop, you know? So for me, I felt cynical towards someone who is trying to tell me that he wants to bring the prices of eggs down when he looks like an egg.
Several polls suggest Labour may be forced into a minority government. Preferences among supporters of the minor parties and independents could be crucial under Australia's ranked choice voting system. In the 2022 election, the primary vote split nearly equally among Labour at 32.6%, the Liberal Nationals at 35.7% and others at 31.7%. Roy Morgan Chief Executive Michelle Levine said a third of voters opting for independence and minor parties was likely again in this year's election. Millions of Singaporeans are heading to the polls as the country votes in its 14th general election. A total of 206 candidates from 11 parties, including 2 independents, are vying for 92 seats across 32 constituencies. The ruling People's Action Party PAP already has 5 seats, following a walkover in Marine Parade, Bradle Heights Group Representation constituency. Polls opened at 8 a.m. local time, with a queue of voters forming to cast their ballots early. The election is a bellwether for the popularity of the ruling People's Action Party, led by Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. It has won every election since independence in 1965 and is expected to again win the most seats. The 52-year-old became the Asian financial hub's 4th Prime Minister last year, promising continuity, new blood and to lead Singapore his own way. His party's share of the popular vote will be closely watched, with many voters unhappy with his government's handling of issues and the PAP holding only 60.1% in the 2020 election, one of its worst performances on record. The Freedom Flotilla Coalition, an international non-governmental group, has alleged Israel of bombing a ship bound for Gaza carrying humanitarian aid. The Maltese government has said the vessel and its crew were secured in the early hours of the morning after a nearby tug assisted with firefighting operations. Turkey's foreign ministry has said Turkish nationals were on board at the time of the incident, and it was working with Maltese authorities to transfer them to a safer location.
It is nightfall now in Malta. They were attacked in the dead of night last night. We don't know that it won't happen again. So it is urgent that the Maltese authorities allow this ship to dock safely. so we can ensure the safety of everyone on board. Why we were attacked is because we were trying to bring life-saving aid to Gaza, because Israel has the whole population of Gaza under siege in an illegal blockade that is deliberately denying basic food, water, and medicine to an entire civilian population.
A ceasefire between Israel and Hamas broke down in March, with both sides blaming each other, and Israel sent troops back into Gaza and resumed airstrikes. The Maltese government has said maritime authorities had received a mayday call shortly after midnight local time from a vessel outside of territorial waters with 12 crew members and 4 civilians on board. The coalition said it had been organizing a non-violent action under a media blackout in order to avoid any potential sabotage. Since March 2nd, Israel has completely cut off all supplies to the 2.3 million residents of the enclave, and food stockpile during a ceasefire at the start of the year has all but run out. Canadian prosecutors have charged a 30-year-old Vancouver resident with murder for killing at least 11 people aged between 5 and 65 and injuring dozens after he rammed an SUV through a crowd at a Filipino community festival in the western Canadian city last Saturday. The man, Kai G. Adam Low, was charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder by prosecutors in British Columbia, and further charges are anticipated. Authorities describe Low as having had a significant history of interactions with authorities involving mental health. They said there was no evidence of terrorism. The attack on Saturday evening took place 2 days before Canada's federal election. The incident happened shortly after 300 GMT in Vancouver's Sunset neighborhood, an area known for its large Asian population, where the Lapu-Lapu Day Block Party, celebrating a Philippine national hero, was taking place. Moving on, the administration of President Donald Trump is reportedly planning significant personnel cuts at the Central Intelligence Agency and other major U.S. spy units. The CIA plans to cut 1,200 positions, along with thousands more from other parts of the U.S. intelligence community.
I certainly don't think I did everything perfectly in terms of making decisions about every issue that relates to, I'm talking generally, but I talked about my record in terms of how I approach these things and how, in terms of speaking truth to power, which sometimes includes declassifying information, most of the things that I've done, Senator, aged very well.
Since taking office in January, Trump and his billionaire ally Elon Musk have gone on a cost-cutting drive that has gutted and attempted to dismantle various agencies and resulted in the departure of over 200,000 federal workers. That is all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.